Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm just sitting here in my new Crashpad and I wanted to put together a little video for you. This one is going to be about some of my tips for finding a place to live while you're on reserve. So these are things that you want to really think hard about before you find a place that you settle while you're on reserve or while you don't settle. So stay tuned. If you're here for the first time, this channel is basically about flight attendant stuff. I do mix in a little bit of family, a little bit of fitness, but I would say it leans heavily towards the flight attendant information and trips that I take while I'm working and also just for leisure. Okay, so we're going to talk about where you should live when you're on reserve. And there's a lot of things that go into making this decision, and I would like to help you be informed going into this. If you are currently getting ready for training, I know how a lot of people that have reached out to me that are either applying or interviewing or have already received their job offers and they're going to be going to training after the first of the year. So when you first start with your company, you will most likely be on reserve at least for a little while. Reserve means that you are on call. So your schedule, when you are on the schedule, you're on call. They can call you at any time during your call hours, which could be, for some people it's 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Some people it's a 24-hour period. It just depends on the company that you work for. It's different for everyone. My company, for me right now, my schedule is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I am on call, and then I'm off from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. the next day, depending on if I am on call again the next day. So I have been on and off reserve. I started on reserve when I first became a flight attendant, and I was based in Detroit. So my home is in California, sort of near Los Angeles. So obviously I could not commute easily or quickly from LA to Detroit. So I needed to find something in Detroit. So there's options that a lot of people will try to travel back and forth. Once you get the hang of commuting, it's not as bad, but sometimes it can be a mess. So you don't want to commute at first when you're on reserve. I do not recommend it unless you are within maybe like an hour flight of where you are based. That would be my recommendation. My particular company, I'm on probation for 1 year. And I only have 5 call-outs that I can get excused in that year. So that makes it very, very scary to be too far away, because if you don't show up or you don't call back or you don't notify them that you, if they notify you for a trip and you don't acknowledge that they notified you, within 10 minutes, you're screwed, basically. So you want to be close to where you are based, because usually when you do get called, you have 2 hours. So let's get into options of where to live or where to stay or where to put your head at night when you're sleeping or when you're waiting for the call. So there's options. Option number 1 is, if you do live fairly close to your base, which I have not seen that happen very often. Actually, I don't know anybody that's actually gotten based close to where they live right out of the gate. Now, I've known people who've gotten transferred right away close to home, but not right out of the gate. So I would say most people are at least going to have to find a place to stay for 1 month while they figure out their transfer. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I think my company is the only one that does transfers every month. I think other companies, it's like pretty rare that you get to transfer, but don't quote me on that, I'm not sure. So in my company, you have at least a month that you're going to be based, probably more than an hour flight away from home. So in my case, I was based in Detroit, and obviously I couldn't live at home because, I mean, I do live at home, but I couldn't commute from home because that's just too far. It's a 3+ hour flight each time. And to get back to Detroit, you lose 3 hours, and so you have a 3-hour flight plus you lose 3 hours. So basically you eat a whole day traveling to work. So it wasn't really practical for me to go back and forth and not have a place to stay in Detroit. So options were, I do have a friend that lives in Detroit, or lives near the airport, about 25 minute drive from the airport. So that was option number one. I did not feel comfortable. I didn't have a car at first. I did end up buying a car, but I didn't have a car at first, and I did not feel comfortable being that far away because you do only have those 2 hours to get to the airport. I really didn't want to spend my time driving or possibly getting stuck in traffic. So that option was kind of on the back burner, even though it would have been nice and probably the more affordable option. I did not do that. So option number two was, or I guess home friend. Option number three was to rent an apartment. And then option number four is to have a crash pad. So not necessarily in that order. Some people probably put crash pad before apartment, and here's why. So here's the things you need to think about when you're deciding which one you're going to choose. And it could be different for everyone. The things that are most important to you that you can make work. Being on reserve is stressful. Bottom line, it's just a stressful way of living. So you don't want where you're living to add to that stress in any way. So that's my number one tip. So when you think about this, and you might not know until you get into the situation. It might be more stressful than you thought it was going to be, thinking, oh, this is going to be great because, and then you get there and you're like, okay, well, now I'm sacrificing something else. So number one, you want to think about your budget. Obviously, you're going to probably have to pay for where you sleep for whatever days that you are in base. So say you have a 5-day bucket, which is what we call, like if I have a 5 days of reserve in a row, and say the first 2 days I don't get called, and then I get put on a 3-day trip. So that means, so let's say that bucket starts on a Monday. I'm gonna have to get there on Sunday. I'm gonna have to stay Sunday night. I don't get called on Monday, so I would stay there Monday night, and then I do get a trip that starts on Wednesday, right? So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, that's my 5-day bucket. So that means I'm gonna have to stay Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, and then I'll head out to my trip. So I need 3 nights in wherever I'm staying. So what you have to figure out is some places charge you for just the night you're there. So some people actually, I'm gonna add a 4th one or a 5th one, some people just get hotel rooms. I don't think that's probably the best budget solution in my opinion, and usually the cheapest hotels are kind of like 1-2 stars. So I'm gonna put that one like far down the list. Some people do it successfully, more power to them. I wouldn't choose that ever. That was never even on my list, on my radar. So budget is number one. What are you willing to pay? What are you able to pay for where you sleep? Okay, number 2 is proximity. How close do you want to be? Like I said, my friend, she had a place that she said I could stay. I felt like she was a little far away because I was so new and so nervous. Now, I feel like if I went back there, I'd be okay because I know, I know the area, I know how long it takes to get to the airport, I'm a little bit familiar with it. But I think you need to decide like how close you need to be. What feeds into that decision is, do you have a car? Is the airport in an area where there's public transit? A lot of them are not. Detroit Airport, terrible public transit. Houston Airport, terrible public transit. Minneapolis apparently has a great train system. Chicago has a train system. So you have to decide based on where you are, can you use public transit? Are you gonna have to get a car? Are you gonna have to Uber? I started out Ubering when I was in Detroit, and they charge you $5 every single time they have to go into the airport on top of their normal Uber fee. I could not afford that. It was $15 to $20 every time to or from. And then if I wanted to go to the store, blah, 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 it was just, it was really, it really hampered my freedom, and it just made me nervous. Like I didn't feel like I had control over my transportation. So proximity, how close you want to be to the airport. Comfort, what are you comfortable with? So if you need your own room, you're probably gonna have to rent an apartment. That's just bottom line. Which is going to go back to budget. Can you afford that? Like, it's going to be more expensive, obviously, to have an apartment. Do you mind other people sleeping in the same room as you? Crash pads. You may or may not have people in and out of your room while you're sleeping. Are you okay with that? Are you comfortable with that? I mean, you're not going to be there that many nights probably, because most people on their days off, they tend to go home or whatnot. That's the other thing. Are you going to go home? A lot of people don't want to go home on their days off. It's too much work. Riding standby, flying standby, and commuting is work. People say it's actually another job because it takes time, it takes patience, and it makes you a little crazy sometimes. So what are you comfortable with? If you're living with a friend, do they have kids? Do they have pets? Do they have a space for you? Or are you going to be sleeping in the garage? Or are you going to have to be sharing a bathroom? Or what things are you comfortable with, and what are they comfortable with you being there? So sometimes you think you are, and then it doesn't really pan out the way you think it's going to. And then how often you're going to be there. Obviously, if you feel like if you do live pretty close, like say you're in the same time zone, your home is in the same time zone, and you're going to fly home fairly regularly, then you're probably not going to sleep there that many nights. So that's going to play into your budget, like how many nights are you theoretically paying for. And then I think low on the list, but could get more important the longer you're on reserve, is amenities. Like where you're staying, what does it offer you? Do they have a pool? Do they have a gym? Do they provide laundry service? Do they provide cleaning service? Do you have to pay for utilities and Wi-Fi and all that separately, or is that included? All those little things, they start to add up, and they start to change in how important they are to you. So I'm going to go tell you what I've done, because I've done all things. I've done all of these things. So I started out in Detroit, and I rented an apartment with some of my classmates. I am super glad I did that for every single reason except for when I needed to leave, because I got a transfer, which we won't go into. I should never have gotten a transfer, but I got a transfer and I had to find somebody to take my spot, which is what we agreed upon. We all signed a lease, and then we just said, we'll just get somebody to take our spot if we get transferred. Well, that proved to be a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be, and I ended up paying for a month that I didn't even live there. So that was kind of a bummer for me. But otherwise, I loved having our own space, our own kitchen. I loved being able to just relax and have my space and not have to worry about anybody else. I did share a bunk bed with one other roommate, but I mean, we barely crossed paths. One of us would be there and one of us wouldn't be there, and it was totally fine. So it was actually pretty cheap. It ended up being like under $250 a month with everything. So that was with all the utilities included. So it was, I mean, that's in Detroit though. So you have to think about where you're at, because Chicago is going to be more expensive. New York is going to be more expensive. So that's what you got to think about that. Okay, so after I moved to Houston, I stayed in a Crashpad for 1 month. It was a pretty well-established Crashpad, and there was really nothing wrong with it per se. I had no problems there. I was actually there alone quite a bit. There was a lot of beds, but barely anyone lived there at the time or was using it. Just in case you don't know what a Crashpad is, houses are set up, people own houses, they set them up with bunk beds, and people pay kind of a low price to just basically sleep there when they need to, and then they usually go home on their days off or when they're not working. And so that one was $220, which was, and that included everything. And it was very close to the airport. That was good. So, and then I had a friend who lives in Houston who invited me to come and stay at her house. So I did that for about a month and a half, and just for various reasons, we decided that it wasn't really like a perfect situation. And so And that's what I'm talking about. If you do decide to live with friends, you have to figure out, like, do they want you to be a part of their family, or do they understand your lifestyle and know that you're going to be coming and going at weird times? And a lot of times, like, for me, like, when I get back from a trip, I don't really want to hang out. I kind of want to just, I kind of want to seclude myself and have time to myself alone and watch TV and just be quiet. Because when you're working, you are like on, you're with the passengers, you're with your captain, your pilots, the other flight attendants, you're like on, you know, smiles on, everything's on. And so when you get done, you just kind of want a seclusion. You want that secluded time. So if you're living with a friend and they're kind of wanting to be like, hey, what are you doing? Let's hang out, let's watch TV or whatever. You might want to think that through. It's possibly not a good not a good fit for that, or maybe that's not the best place for you to be. If you're totally like 100% social person and you want to hang out all the time and you're ready, you want to play board games, hey, go for it. That's your deal. So that was there, and then because of that, I kind of like in a bit of a hurry tried to find a new Crashpad, and I just happened upon the one that I'm at now, which is actually a brand new Crashpad. I am literally their first customer. First customer. They haven't had anybody living here yet, so I'm kind of helping them break it in and figure out what they want to do. And I really like being here by myself right now. It's a very nice house, a very nice space. I have all the amenities are included in my rent, and all the internet, internet, utilities, water, cleaning service, or they have yard service. So I'm really happy. Like, I think this was, even though obviously I would prefer not to pay rent, I think this is probably an ideal situation for me. Those are all my tips, are all my things that you should think about when you're looking for somewhere to live when you're on reserve. Use people's experiences to help you. Reach out. There are Facebook groups, airline crash pads by city. There are other ones. Go on your company's website and ask around. Usually each company, well, my company each base has a Facebook page. There are people that know, like, about crash pads and ideas. Crashpad 411 has listings. So there are places to find out, and you can always ask me. I'm happy to help you look and evaluate what you want to do. So that's it for this one. And if you have any ideas, any information, or things flight attendant-ish that you want me to talk about or you want to ask questions about, I may not know everything. I probably don't know everything. I'm still fairly new. I don't know when you get to stop saying that. So I'm 8 months in now. Almost 9 months. I've almost been in 9 months. So I have learned a lot. I'm still learning, obviously, but I love to help. I love to give encouragement. So if you're currently applying somewhere and you're interviewing, reach out to me and I will cheer you on all the way. So if you have not subscribed yet, there's room for you. I mean, we do have 136 subscribers, so it's getting a little heavy, but I think we can handle a few more. Anyway, I'm sorry, that was a dumb joke. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.